Hello guys, my name is Shmail. I'll be going through pretty much the whole of cognitive psychology, and so yes, let's begin. So I'm going to be looking at the anatomy of the brain. Now I know this isn't on the specification, but I know that this will help you to build up your base on the cognitive part of psychology, and this knowing the anatomy of the brain will just probably give you a better chance, a higher chance of getting more marks in comparison to everyone else. So you can use this in your essays and it will give you higher marks. So, the brain. So you have the parietal lobe, you have the occipital lobe, you have the cerebellum, you have the brainstem, you have the temporal lobe, and you have the frontal lobe. Now, if we have a look here, it says the frontal lobe deals chiefly with cognition and memory, so its ability to concentrate, judgment, consequence analysis, problem solve, plan, personality, and emotional traits. Now, if I was you, I would just remember parts of the brain. I wouldn't really go deep into which part does what, but if you do, that would give you a bonus. But for now, I would just memorize the parts, and then later on, you can link to different types of memory and which one encodes where. And so that's the frontal lobe. And I think in the front, no, so that's frontal lobe with hippocampus, which is extremely important, which we'll learn more about later on. So the temporal lobe is the chief auditory receptive area and contains the hippocampus, like I said, which is the chief region where long-term memory is formed. So the hippocampus is where the long-term memory is like stored, and so also deals with high level of visual processing. Now the brain stem here serves as brain warnings, so it like gives you an alarm system to other like environmental hazards. So you've got the cerebellum. The cerebellum is a motion related. Uh, so it functions are motion related activities. So more motor skills, so it contributes to coordination, precision, accurate timing, but does not initiate movement, and regulates fear and pleasure responses and some cognitive functions such as attention and language. Occipital lobe uh, is the visual processing center of the brain, so it contains most of what is referred to as a visual cortex, so this portion here, and it's also a part of the brain where dreams originate. So at the back of your head, that's where the dreams originate, and this lobe here plays an important role in integrating information from several senses, and also processes some parts of speech, visual perception, and pain and touch sensations. So near the bottom of your brain, you that's where the like center is, where the hippocampus is, which is probably the most important thing of the brain. And so I've just summed it up here. The the pariet the pariet the pariet the pariet the pariet the parietal lobe is speech visual perception, integrates senses, and so majority of senses and echoic and visual stuff goes here. Occipital lobe, the origination of dream and the visual cortex. The occipital lobe is where like the majority of the dream originates from, and the cerebellum is fear and pleasure responses, so motion related, more motor skills stuff is like stored here, and the brainstem is a warning system, and the temporal lobe is where long-term memory is formed, so in the hippocampus. So that's it for today. So I just really want you just to like memorize the parts of the brain, and then later on you'll be able to use them, and it will just give you a better chance of getting more marks. So yes, and in the next video we'll look at long-term